Hello, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Paul Stevenson, Associate Director of Campus Brussels, working alongside the Campus Director, Marilena Eliantonio, and our dedicated team of 4 staff. We're here to welcome Maastricht University staff and students to our Brussels hub. We provide event facilities and working space and help researchers organise and hold their workshop or conference. Just so you know, we are 2 metro stops or a 20-minute walk from the EU institutions, or if you're coming from Maastricht by train, a short metro ride from Brussels Gare Centrale. This Campus Brussels podcast series, Stories from Brussels, aims to connect people from different communities in order to share their professional and personal experiences of what it's like to be working for Maastricht University or teaching while living in Brussels. Through the series, we will introduce you to staff, students, PhD researchers and postdocs, campus interns, and alumni, all based here in the EU capital. We'll be chatting with them about their experiences of living and working in Brussels, finding out about the issues they're interested in, and learning what they're currently working on and how they've adapted their studying, teaching, and working life during the pandemic. And indeed, how they see the future evolving. This 3rd episode is with 3 students of the MA in European Public Affairs, all currently doing their internships. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Elvine Niala from Ghent, who has a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies from the University of Ghent and a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy from the University of Antwerp. I'm also joined by Michael Brusker, who before joining the APA Master studied German Studies and Political and Economic Sciences for teaching purposes at the Albert Ludwigs Universiteit in Freiburg. And with Christine Nagy, who is originally from Brussels and moved to Maastricht to pursue her Bachelor's in European Studies at FASOS. Elvine, Michael, Christine, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening on a very, very hot Brussels evening in mid-June. I know you've all had a very, very busy day today, so it's really generous of you to give up your time this evening. And we won't keep you too long so we can all get outside and enjoy the fine weather. I thought I'd just ask maybe by just finding out where you are today. Where are you speaking from and what's it like where you are? Elvine.
I'm currently speaking from Brussels, actually more specifically European Quarter, which is really nice, and catching a little bit the vibe of what happened this few days with the summit that happened here. Joe Biden there was here, so it's quite interesting. It was definitely a nice experience.
So there's been a buzz in the air and it's been quite busy.
Yes, absolutely.
How about you, Michael?
Well, I'm currently based in Berlin, and actually it's also a really, really nice summer evening here. It has been a hot day, and yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying my time here, and I'm also like following the events in Brussels, so quite exciting times at the moment.
Great. And Christine, where are you today?
I'm actually in Maastricht. I go back and forth between Maastricht and Brussels from time to time, and actually I was glad I was not in Brussels during the summit, because that I've seen and I've heard that it was quite busy and difficult to get around in the city. But I mean, it's easy for me to go back to Brussels because that's my home, basically. So it's nice to be able to go back and forth.
Great. We'll ask you later about your favorite places and get some tips from you, somebody who's grown up in the city. Now, I know you're all master students doing the MA European Public Affairs, for which I'm the Director of Studies this year. Wondered why you chose that program actually and how it related to your previous studies, what your intentions were.
Well, yeah, if I can start, I decided to go for the master because first of all, it was just super interesting. After having done already a master at the University of Antwerp, it was quite interesting to go a little bit more for a master that is focused on not only the academic part, but also the theoretical part. And that's definitely one of the reasons that I decided to go for it. And once again, I think also the internship that allows you already to have one step actually in your professional career. It's quite interesting, and it's not really given in every master.
So you enjoyed the practice-based element to the APA Master?
Absolutely.
How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to Elvin actually. I mean, the practical approach was like the major thing why I applied for the IPA Master. And I really think that there is hardly any other master program which is that much practically orientated. And in addition, I have to say that, you know, I already obtained a master's degree or like a comparable degree in Germany. So for me, it was also kind of a question that I didn't want to make another 2 years program, but rather like a years program. And as Elvin said, having the internship included in that year, which really offers you to have a good opportunity to, you know, shape your professional profile as well, was kind of a, you know, very attractive thing about the IPA Master. So that's why I applied in the end.
Yeah,
Christine.
I will have to echo Elvin and Michael's statements. What really attracted me to this master is the practical side of it. I really enjoyed that. And I also really was interested in doing an internship. That is also something that is not always included in a 1-year master. So that was really a big advantage of having a 1-year master with an internship included in it. So that was really something that attracted me to this master, I must say.
And I've been really impressed how all of you have been able to find internships under these difficult circumstances. I'll talk a little bit more about internships in a moment, but I just wanted to ask you what your kind of experiences of this year have been, because I know we met in the classroom in September, October, but then we went back into lockdown, and it's been very much an online master's that you've been following. I mean, what's your experience been of all of this classroom activity on Zoom and Teams and WebEx? What are the pros and cons? Has it been effective, or have you been disappointed by the experience?
Well, in general, Paul, I have to say that the supervisors and the master did a great job, because even though it was COVID, we had really the opportunity, definitely the first part of the master, to meet each other and to get to know each other. And this is also possible because we are such a small cohort. So that's super interesting. And I'm really happy that we were able to see each other and get to know each other. Of course, the second part of the master was online. But I have to say that because we already saw each other, it was okay. You could deal a little bit with it. But when it comes to pro and cons, I think the pros is that you're just at home and it's easy. You can roll out of your bed and literally go back to the computer. But the bad side of it is that, you know, it's the internet, the digital age. Sometimes it goes a little bit slow and not everyone is able to connect, but it's also, you lose some kind of motivation because of that. So I think that's the most disadvantage maybe. But in general, I think it was a great experience. And I made some good friends. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to Elvin again. I mean, in the end, we were super lucky that we're only like a group of 30 people, and we were able to get to know each other really closely in the first, I think it was the first 3 months. Yeah. And I think the performance of the online classes was very good. Me personally, I was totally able to follow the content and to, you know, understand what the lectures are about, etc. But I mean, we can be quite honest here, it's just not comparable to being in class. And I mean, there's just, if you can't compare it, like, it's just, you know, it was a necessity to do it online. It was okay, but I mean, if anybody hears it who thinks about applying for the IPA Master, you can definitely be happy that you will most probably be able to follow the courses on campus. And then if you are on campus, if you have the lovely Banditos Cafe, etc., you will probably be able to attend one of the most amazing master programs ever, I'd say.
Yeah, I remember the frustrations of last autumn, you know, when we got the practitioners from the EP and the council, and they weren't allowed to cross the border to come to the Netherlands to teach. That was a real frustration, wasn't it?
I also remember, Paul, like, we actually met quite late, like you and our cohort, right? Because we're also stuck in Brussels, which was kind of, you know, crazy. Like, it was just a weird situation, but I mean, that, you know, accounts for everybody. So I think we did the very best out of it. So yeah.
Great. And Christine, how about you?
Yeah, I have to agree with Michael. We did the best we could with what we had. Indeed, I think that because we had such a great group dynamic from the start, we could keep going online without being overwhelmed. We could still keep that playfulness and relationships all the while being online. But on the other hand, it is still a challenge to be in front of a computer for several hours and to stay concentrated. But again, like Michael and Elvine have said, regardless of that, I think we all did great. We all are doing good. So it's been good. It's been great.
And you've managed to enjoy Maastricht and discover a little bit of Limburg.
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, there are very lovely tiny villages all around Maastricht, and even within Maastricht there's always something new to discover. Like there's always some kind of corner you never thought of to visit, but then you go there and it's a nice opportunity, especially with this nice weather.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm still sad that the Brussels trips didn't happen for us. So that's really the disadvantage.
I mean, me personally, I've never been to Brussels so far, like even after the even after the program, because then there was this travel ban. So I'm literally like, I will move to Brussels maybe next year. Oh no, I will move to Brussels by next year, but I've never been there so far. So yeah, that's really sad.
A trip must happen to Brussels. The cohort that didn't get the trip will have a trip together.
I also recall Paul offering that if we wouldn't be able to do the Brussels trip to the institutions, we would do a Brussels trip to bars in Brussels. So we might come back to that offer, Paul.
I can take you on a walking tour once you're here of my favorite places. Can I ask you about public affairs? You studied European public affairs. I mean, looking back at this last year, have you discovered? What kind of interests have you developed? Were there things that emerged from the literature or the courses, or maybe kind of policy issues, things within integration that have piqued your interest?
I think for me, it only reinforced my interest in foreign affairs. That's definitely one of the things with the first module. So I'm super happy with that. But also I discovered things that I didn't know. And this is also one of the reasons that I decided to go for the master. For example, lobbying, I don't know really about a lot about that literally in the beginning, but now I'm definitely quite knowledge, and also the entire cohort. But that was a nice discovery for me in general. And I think in general, here and there in every module, you were able to get something that you don't really know. When it comes to the last module evaluation, I also never did it before. So that was really interesting to see how the European Union in general does that, and how we can even contribute. So yeah, I think I've definitely learned several things.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I really also came from, let's say, foreign affairs, also from development policy. Like these were my, the major aspects of political affairs I dealt with in my prior studies. And for me, it was a bit different because I really, let's say, it was the first time I got in contact with lobbying, with the research about public affairs. And I had never dealt with it in Freiburg. And for me, really, like, things changed a bit because before starting the EPA Master in September, I was really like sure that I would end up in, some kind of foreign affairs business, development policy business. And in the second module, I really discovered that, this whole stuff about lobbying and actual public affairs is really something where I can be really like what I'm really enjoying to do. So for me, I really learned something new, and I really, learned something about myself as well. So I really have to say that this, examination of the different aspects of public affairs was also very valuable for me in order to find, my personal career path. So yeah. And
what is it that appeals particularly? Is it the fact that you have to sort of develop a policy knowledge in many, many areas and follow lots and lots of legislative files, so you get a very broad understanding of developments, or was it the opportunity to specialize?
No, actually, it was the first thing you mentioned, because I really think that when doing lobbying, you're not like narrow to one specific policy field, but you really have to have an idea what's going on, well, in the EU, but in the end in the world. And I think that's just a really nice aspect of it, that you're, you know, that's how I explain to my friends. I'm actually dealing with stuff that is getting relevant for the society, for everybody, in, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And you really have to look ahead, and you really, you know, deal with shaping the society of tomorrow, I could say. And that's really something I really enjoy.
That's a really nice way of looking at it. How about you, Christine? How have your interest developed over time?
Yeah, well, my interest in lobbying grew a lot because of the master. I had never really done any lobbying before or studied it. But because of the second module, lobbying, I learned a lot about it. But especially what I enjoyed the most was the practical aspect of it. So writing a lobbying proposal, which I did with Elvine, actually, which was a very nice experience. Especially because we got to contact representatives from the toy industries, which we were supposed to write a proposal for. And it really allowed us to have a direct contact with a company that lobbies the EU, and to really have this real life experience was really enriching, because it didn't just feel theoretical or academic. We really got to put into practice what we had learned throughout the course. And that was a little bit the culmination of the lobbying module. And it was a really nice experience, and it allowed us also to have an insight of what lobbying actually is, because we all have that image of a man in a suit going to invite somebody else for lunch and then convincing them to do something. But we got to have other aspects than just the cliches, which is also something very nice to have different perspectives on that.
Great. That moves me nicely onto my next question, actually, about your internships, because you're all doing 12-week internships, or at least 12 weeks, and while you're actually writing a thesis. So what does this lobbying in public affairs actually mean in practice in the day-to-day? Maybe you can tell us the area in which you're working and the kind of type of work you're doing on a day-to-day basis. What does it mean in practice?
Well, I'm working in the area of international human rights, and actually it's super interesting because before, you see, it's the UN actually that is here present in Brussels for the European Union. So it helps the European Union somehow to tackle all those issues. And what is really interesting is that you see those public affairs, the importance of it. That's really the in-between. They help really to construct a kind of way for the European Union to have an effective regulation or directive that really could work and could tackle those different issues in human rights. And definitely with the problem that we have now, the rule of law, where we see that Hungary and Poland, for example, are very against it. It's super interesting to see the interest and the importance of civil societies, public affairs organizations. All kind of them are really important actually to create some kind of environment that will allow the European Union to create some hopefully, let's say hopefully, a regulation, a directive that could work and that could help citizens in a really important and beautiful way at the same time.
So does your job, your internship, Elvine, is it about monitoring? Is it about data gathering? Is it about a lot of writing? What do you practically do?
Well, in my internship, I do a lot of things, but I think the most important thing that relates to the master is definitely data gathering. And for example, I'm part in the writing of rule of law reports on the different countries of the European Union, which is definitely really interesting. And I see some tools that I've learned within the master, that I can definitely use. Really, and one of the most important things that I think that is very useful in my internship right now is that detailed work of doing research, which I have to say I had that after my master in international relations and diplomacy, but now I have it in a complete different way, and that is really because of the master in European public affairs. So
clearly, your legal background has come in useful there. Yeah. What about you, Michael? What area are you working in, and what are you doing day to day?
I'm interning with a governmental relations consultancy. I don't work for a fixed set of clients, although I have my focus clients, and but those are not from a specific sector. So I cover a quite wide range. Yeah, chemicals is in it, for instance, or also, let me think about it, was a long day in office. Also logistics and so on and so on. I mean, it's like 5 or 6 sectors, which is also quite interesting because thereby I get quite, you know, what we talked about earlier, you know, the impression of lots of policy fields and what's going on in lots of policy fields. And yeah, that's just super interesting. Yeah. Now I experience that lots of things are going on in Brussels. And also, I think lots is changing at the moment, right? I mean, I really like already in the IPAMAS, I really thought about it. I think we really live in changing times. Like if you think about the Green Deal, etc., it's really something that will change our society probably.
How about you, Christine? You're also in a private sector public affairs firm.
I work for the European Commission. I do my
Right.
internship in the Directorate of Justice and Consumers, and more specifically in the unit that deals with international and institutional affairs, which actually gives me a great opportunity to deal with a lot of different topics, such as EU-US relations, the Western Balkans, enlargement. I get to attend high-level meetings on judicial matters in Kosovo, for instance. So it's really interesting because I get to also attend parliamentary meetings and report on them, or other meetings about the US, attend press briefings to report back on it. For instance, in preparation of the summit, there was a press briefing the day before, and then I had to flag the elements that were of interest for our unit and also for DG Justice to kind of see what is going to be discussed. So it's a really great opportunity to touch upon many different topics and put into practice what we have learned in the master, because it's very different to learn about the European Union and how policy making works academically, and then seeing it in practice once you're in it and see how the machine actually goes.
And I imagine you all three have been doing your internships largely online, that you haven't been able to go into the office physically, or?
I've been 2 times to the office, but the rest wasn't definitely online. But actually, from Friday onwards, I need to go 2 times a week to the office. Right. So it's changing a little bit.
So you get to meet your colleagues in person.
Yeah, I had actually already the opportunity to meet some of them when the 2 times that I needed to go to the office. But definitely on Friday, I'm definitely looking forward to see a lot of them. It's 20% that is now allowed in the office. So it's some people that we can meet, so that's nice.
For me, actually, I think I was very, very lucky because you know, I'm working for the Brussels office of this public affairs consultancy or governmental relations consultancy, but they offered me to do the internship in Berlin because in Berlin it was allowed to go to the office, and that's why I'm able to do most of the time on site, like in the office. I think in middle of April, or I think it was middle of April, German government introduced like a regulation that the offices have to be like half of the staff can be inside the office, and that's why from then onwards I had to do the internship like 50% in the home office, 50% in office. But yeah, still, I mean, it's amazing. I'm really grateful that they offered me to do it in Berlin. It's a really cool move, and yeah, that's why I really got to know my colleagues, yeah, quite well.
Wow, you've been lucky, very lucky. Privileged.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Christine, I was going to ask you about your experience. Has been mainly online, or you've managed to go into the commission buildings?
Yeah, no, it's been mainly online. Right now, they're starting to introduce again the 20% rule. I don't know if I will get the opportunity to actually go into the office since the internship ends on the 30th of June. I will try to go to the building, but I will see. So that also means that I wasn't really able to meet any colleagues, but I will have opportunities later on for more informal events like coffee or so with colleagues. But yeah, that was I guess that was one of the challenges of doing an internship during COVID. It's that the internship is online and you don't get to meet your colleagues or go to the cafeteria or, those little aspects of work life that you miss on.
Yeah. I remember the year before, everybody just had their internships entirely cancelled. So an internship online is better than none at all. I think we have to be grateful. Maybe you guys have got some tips for people listening about, because it's pretty tough to get these internships and it's very, very competitive. I mean, often half the cohort maybe was applying for the same position. So do you have any tips in terms of your CV, your cover letter, how to network, where to find opportunities?
I would say be authentic in your motivation letter. I think that's definitely much more what they are looking for. Not really that you say I did this and this and this and this, but to try to tell it in a nice storyline somehow. So that's really a tip that I want to give. And then in general, when looking for an internship, you have, of course, the opportunity with EPA to have sometimes a little bit of context of some mails that are coming in about an internship that is available. So that is also definitely chances that you really need to take with both your hands. But otherwise, you really need to keep on going and try to do as much as research to find some kind of an internship that is according to your interest. Because it's okay, we have COVID and COVID makes a little bit more difficult, but in general, the world where we want to go in, whether it's public affairs, whether it's foreign affairs, it doesn't really matter. You have to give everything that you can because it's definitely a competitive world. So in general, just go for it and really search what you want to do and be authentic in the way that you present yourself.
So stay focused on what you're interested in and be true to yourself.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Aveen, sorry, and I would also like to add that I think being brief is also a quality, because in the end, that's what I experienced. Like, nobody wants to read thousands of pages. It's just about, presenting yourself briefly, being short, and then if you get an invitation for a personal call, I mean, in the end, if it's a match, they'll hire you. If it's not a match, they won't hire you, and then it's better for you. So, I mean, sometimes that's hard to digest, but that's how it is. And in the end, I think patience pays out, and everybody got an internship, a good internship, after all. And for those listening and thinking about applying for the EPA Master, I can also point to the fabulous workshop of writing CV and cover letters with Professor Paul Stevenson, but I really have to say, which helped me a lot, like really a lot, because I really get the direct comparison, because I applied at the same company which I'm doing the internship with now before joining the EPA Master for an internship. And well, there's a reason why I applied the second time. And if I compare my, application documents, there's like a world between them. So that's really also a nice aspect about the EPA Master, that you're really getting prepared to come back to that issue for, let's say, your professional career, in terms of, in terms that are not directly related with the content of the studies, but also like generally for
thinking about how you profile yourself as a brand, project yourself on paper. Yeah. So I'm glad it was useful, Michael.
It was.
Christine, how about you?
Yeah, I have to agree with Edwin and Michael that you have to persevere, be brief and concrete and to the point. It's not necessary to go into great details about your life or about your this and that or that. To be precise and concise is very, very much a key element to succeed in finding an internship, I believe. I also believe it's important to look into places you wouldn't think of. I mean, it's not because we do the EPA Master with governance, lobbying, and such that we have to find an internship specifically in those areas. I mean, I know someone who did an internship as a journalism. So it's really open and varied, and there will always be an opportunity for someone. And I really think that without COVID, it will also become more flexible and easier to find an internship. and just to stay open-minded also to internships and not think, oh no, I have to do an internship in this place or this place. But like I said, to stay open-minded and be open to opportunities you wouldn't think of in the first place.
And this leads me nicely on to the whole notion of extracurricular activities and other things you might do beyond your study or alongside your study to build up your CV. And I know, Elvine, you were the student ambassador. Christine, you've been doing Student Forum Maastricht. Maybe you could tell us about these things that you've been doing actually this year as well. And Michael, if you've been doing anything else this year.
Yeah, it's like you said it. I'm the student ambassador right now. So that is what I've been mostly doing beside my studies. I love doing things besides my studies. I've always been doing it. So it's definitely interesting. And I would tell to every student that actually wants to do something beside an EPA master, you can do it. You know, the EPA master is a definitely demanding master, but you can definitely do something on the side that can be interesting for you. Be smart also maybe in what you decide to do. But my experience, I have to say, as ambassador was definitely a very nice experience. I was able to present the current cohort and the master in general, which was wonderful to do. I'm still doing it for a little bit longer, but it has been a great experience. So definitely go also on the Instagram and Facebook page. You will see the different faces of every one of the cohort. You will see also what the master is about. You can still apply, so don't wait too long for it because it's almost the end of the deadline. But yeah, it has been great for me to do this besides the EPA master in general.
You've been doing a lot of social media work, haven't you, across all platforms? And
yes. Mostly on Facebook and Instagram. And I've been also for a couple weeks already right now been presenting on Instagram the experiences of everyone doing their internship. And there are some of them that already passed. So I hope you were able to see that, but don't worry, there will still come some. But yeah, you can definitely see a lot, even videos, all kind of stuff that will help you to make that decision that we made, and which is a great decision.
Christine.
For my part, I am and I was president of Student Forum Maastricht this year. I was also a participant and then in the board last year, and now I'm the president of this conference. So it's normally a week-long conference that we organize around 4 topics, EU-related topics, where students from all over Europe come to the Campus Brussels, one of our partners for several years, which we thank you for hosting us every year, hosting Student Forum Maastricht every year in Brussels, lovely Brussels, where we always have a great time. And it's a great opportunity for students to come together and discuss these topics with the help of experts from the European institutions, from think tanks and other bodies. So it's a great opportunity, and it was really manageable to do both, to study the master and then to manage the conference. Obviously, this year we couldn't be in person at the Campus Brussels. It was an online format this year. I was lucky enough to be present at the Campus for the opening night, which was a great success. And as always, the Campus is a lovely place for any events. And yeah, it was really a great success this year, regardless of the pandemic.
Well, I hope we can do something in the autumn after graduation and bring everybody together at the campus and have a party. That would be lovely, because we didn't manage to do anything, obviously, in the
that
spring.
Would be lovely, indeed.
Of course, you're also writing a thesis. I mean, it's incredible what you're multitasking. You've been researching and writing. I hope that's going well. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what kind of topic you're working on.
So I'm actually researching whether the GDPR increased the normative power of the European Union on the global stage.
GDPR is...
Excuse me?
What is the GDPR?
Oh, the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union. So yeah, I'm actually looking more into that, and juggling it with the internship has definitely been a challenge. I think it was for everyone. Definitely in the beginning, you're super tired and you don't really find that kind of motivation to do that also on the side, because that means you are constantly busy and constantly you have something to do. But eventually I was able to find my balance, and I think I will be able to hand it in time. But it's definitely a challenge that we have to be honest with that. But it's also some kind of experience once again, because in general, the world that we are coming in, that we want to introduce ourselves to, is definitely a world where you have a lot of pressure and you need to do all kind of stuff, and you have practically a really, really busy life. So it's very interesting somehow with the master thesis to see how that is already a little bit. But yeah, it's a challenge, but you are able to do it if you keep up that motivation that you have afterwards holidays. So if you keep this in mind, it will be fine.
Great. Michael.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with Elvine again, and it's just, I really think that everybody has to find their own, let's say, strategy to cope with it, which is also interesting to, there's an interesting learning in it, I guess, because for me, for instance, I started with writing the thesis on the weekends, and I was like, okay, after work, just go home, relax a bit, whatever. And then on the weekend, you'll do something for a thesis. In the end, I mean, then you have a Saturday morning, it's sunny outside, your friends are calling, you want to do something. So in the end, you're absolutely not motivated to do anything for your thesis. So I'd say by the end of April, I, made a reorientation of my strategy. So by now I'm doing it like this. I'm just going home from work. I'm sitting on my thesis for like 2 hours, because in the end, the day is done. So I can use that for the thesis. And I have the weekends for myself, and I'm doing halfway fine. I mean, we can be quite frank, the last months, the last week is always intense. But I think in my personal case, it also pays out that I can really say that I have super good supervision for the thesis. So I really just have to, do the last things to finish it. And also my supervisor really pushed me to, or not, I wouldn't even say pushed me, but gave me the framework to make sure that I am done by, like, let's say 80-90% right now, and the remaining 2 weeks are, for the rest, for the details. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a good strategy. Keep weekends free, but Monday to Friday, thesis, not Netflix.
Yeah, and absolutely. And also, I mean, quite honestly, Elvine said it, right? The working experience in the sector can be intense. I think it doesn't have to be intense always. But, it's also, I really experienced that if you sit on your desk and you do something completely different than you did over the day, it's not that hard. I mean, it is, of course, it's stressful, but it's not that hard in the end, because you have something else on the agenda, and you can, your mind is doing something different. That's quite okay.
And Christine?
Yeah, I mean, for my part, I've always been somebody who does my work when it needs to be done, so I don't really worry much about that, even though there's work on the side, or rather it's the thesis on the side. It's fine, and it's actually very motivating to have work and the thesis, because sometimes during my work I have to attend meetings or read documents that are related to my thesis topic, which is about EU sanctions. So it motivates me when I read something during my work. I'm like, oh, this is great, this is interesting, might integrate it somehow into my thesis, or it gives me new ideas actually for my thesis. So in a sense, I am lucky, and it motivates me to write about my topic.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that topic?
It's a comparative case study between the sanctions imposed in Russia in 2014 and the sanctions imposed in Belarus in 2020 after the fraudulent elections with President Lukashenko.
Right. So you're actually very lucky, Christine, in that there is a match between your internship and your thesis topic. That's not always the case. In an ideal world, everybody would be researching something related to what they're doing day to day. But that's really great that you can bring in these insights and the primary sources into your thesis. How about the actual, doing research under COVID conditions? I mean, I guess some of you might be designing surveys or wanting to interview practitioners. Have you found that people that you've approached have been forthcoming, have been open to your research?
For me, I'm just reading documents, so that's really easy for me. I'm doing much more discourse analysis, and that allows me just to read some documents, and I love reading, so that's pretty fine. I love writing also, that works very fine. So for me, it was not that difficult to actually find possibilities to do my analytic part. It went pretty fine for me.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Michael? What kind of methods or theoretical approaches are you using?
Yeah, I'm also using document and content analysis, and with this, it's totally fine. I also have to say, as my experience with my thesis for the prior studies I did was, let's say, not optimal. I really, approached it in an efficient way, and I really thought of, okay, what is doable, what interests me, but what is also doable. So on the methodology side, I really, put importance to things that I knew that I could do, and that really helped me in the end. And I had some, intensive evenings here on my desk, reading through documents, but that was totally fine, and it was also quite interesting in the end.
Great. And Christine, what kind of approach are you taking?
Just like Elvine and Michael, I am also doing some document analysis. So I would say we are all three lucky that we don't have the challenges of having to interview people during COVID, because that's also a challenge of doing research in these times. So in that sense, we are lucky that we can find the information online, that the information is available, which is not something that's always evident to people, that sometimes the information is not available, and then the source is a person that can help us, but then there are the restrictions and everything. So it's been fine so
We've
far.
all had to adapt our research design to COVID conditions, but of course these kind of skills for, where do you find legislation, where do you find primary documentation? Those are vital skills you need actually for the workplace. So that's really good. Maybe I can just think about the future. I know it's early days, and I know Michael has not yet arrived in Brussels, and you're all just undertaking your first internship, but how do you see your kind of career evolving? Do you have a dream job, a kind of destination, somewhere you'd love to be in 5-10 years? Elvine?
For me, I really want to be a diplomat, Belgian diplomat, of course. So I'm working towards that, and with the internship that I have now, at the UN, it's quite interesting because I'm able to work with the UN and the European Union. So that is a very nice background. And I have actually already a next traineeship of 10 months from Belgium to have 5 months a traineeship at a permanent representation of Belgium for the European Union, and 5 months at Foreign Affairs of the European Union. So that's actually the perfect way to get ready for the diplomatic exam. So where I see my future, I hope in a diplomatic environment.
Wow, fantastic. 2 internships already lined up beyond this one. And sounds like, you have a certain destination towards which you're heading. Michael, what about you?
Well, good question. Actually, I fixed my future yesterday. Because the company actually offered me to stay permanently with them, and we agreed on the terms and conditions yesterday. Everything.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much, Paul. And I just have to sign the contract maybe next week then. And so my future is definitely going to be in a governmental relations consultancy. And as I said before, it's just this thing which really lets me enjoy the work, is just to deal with the multiple policy fields and the challenges and what's going on in politics. That's really what encourages me to spend a day in the office, even if you have this weather, and even if you stay till late evening, because it's really, really interesting, and I really found something which I'm passionate about. which is super nice. And yeah, that's going to be my future.
Fantastic. Watch this space. Christine, how about you?
I definitely, with the experience I've had so far in the European Commission, it is one of my options perhaps for the future, but I would also like to explore some other options first to see a little bit more of what the world has to offer. So maybe work for an NGO or another international organization, or public consultancy, something like that, or even in more specifically in lobbying, since I really enjoyed that module, like I said before. So why not?
Great. Yeah, I know a lot of people go into European public affairs and they work in consultancies for 2 or 3 years, build up a knowledge across a broad range of areas, and then maybe specialize. And maybe they find the policy area that's for them and then specialize, work for an association or a federation. Do you all still, I mean, during the masters, we kind of placed an emphasis on reading Politico and staying on the ball and, knowing all the key players. Do you still monitor and do you still read those kind of news sources religiously?
I have to, Paul, can you ask your question again? I think I forgot it.
During the
Elvin, like how?
During the APA Master, we had a quiz every module, and we placed great emphasis on reading Politico and staying on the ball, knowing who the key players were, the movers and shakers. Do you still monitor, the kind of politics and the political gossip of the EU? Do you stay on top of that?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say that it's super nice that within the master, every professor actually force us to really look into Politico playbook, and that's really, really, really good, because you need it definitely during your internship. I actually needed it. Every day I need to be up to date with what is happening, and that more specifically on human rights, of course. But that experience within the master allowed me to have that. I have it on a regular basis. It's every morning. So it was super easy to apply it also now for the master now. And I have to say that when it comes to maybe what I'd added atop of Politico, for example, was really to go also much more into like the press briefings of the commission, for example, or also of the parliament. So now it's a little bit more in depth than other sources that I use, but that's all because of the experience that I got within the master. So yeah, once again, very thank you for that.
That's really interesting that you use these press briefings as an important source of information each morning. How about you, Michael? Maybe you even have German political sources that you go to.
Yeah, basically it's for me what Elvin said. Like I'm also super glad that I got introduced to Euractiv and Politico in already in September. So it was, I knew it. Like I knew the media outlets when I started the internship. As you asked about the German news, well, it's not that relevant for me because I'm working for the Brussels office. Every now and then I also work for the German office, for the Berlin office, but yeah, I'm mostly dealing with EU stuff. So Euractiv and Politico is the way to go. But for me as well, just as Elvin said, I would say it's even more relevant to monitor what the Parliament does, what the Commission does. But we also learned about that quite intensively during the master. So yeah, I was just really well prepared. And just as a side note, you may want to include that in the podcast. You may also want to cut it out. But now that we're talking, Paul, I can tell it to you because yesterday I talked to my boss, and she said that she said that basically they had never had an intern which was that good prepared for the tasks that an intern has to do with their company. So they were really like, this master's program is really obviously a really good preparation for doing so. So, and this really, it wasn't only about my performance, it was also about the preparation I had, because I came in there and I knew stuff which they didn't expect me to know. For instance, where to get the information about the EU system and so on.
Oh, that's really, really good to know. That's great. Great feedback. Thank you. And Christine.
Well, for my part, Politico is part of my daily work routine. I mean, reading the news in the morning and then just discussing it, for instance, in team meetings, that is a very common occurrence. And also just to keep up to date with the EU bubble, as we like to call it, is also very important for that part of the job. So it's definitely a great aspect of the EPA master that allowed us to, or kind of forced us in a sense, to read the news and keep up to date. So it's really a habit that was created and that will be kept for later on, which is definitely valuable.
And you're all active on Twitter, or do you just check that occasionally?
I'm active on Twitter because of the master.
Right. Okay.
So yeah.
That's cool. Well, listen, I think time is upon us, really, and I don't want to keep you all evening. Maybe just one last question about Brussels and, you know, your experiences. Well, Christine, you are a Bruxelloise, and Elvine, you're from Ghent. Maybe, and Michael will be arriving here very soon. What are your favorite places, best things about Brussels, tips, favorite restaurant, things to do? What do you like? What do you suggest?
Okay, it's since recently, of course, that everything is open again. Brussels didn't really attract me in the beginning, so because of that, I've never really been into Brussels that much, even though I live in Ghent. But now that I have the opportunity because of my internship and also because of the master to be here, I think that I love Sablon. So for everyone, whenever you are in Brussels, and Michael, when you will be arriving in Brussels, we bring you to Sablon, which is an awesome place to be. And then I love the parks. I really love it. Like it's so great in Brussels, and almost in every area you have like something or like several parks or places to be. I live near Saint-Quentin, which is a wonderful place also. So I really love that. I'm more a nature person. So because of that, I really enjoy much more the nature perspective of Brussels in general. But it's definitely nice.
And from the campus, of course, you can take the 81 tram out to Tervuren, and then you've got
yes. I had already the opportunity to work very in the beginning, actually, to work at the campus, and the campus is also very in a very good area, and because of that, super easy to reach, and it's really nice. I think if I'm not mistaken, Paul, like the Brussels is really near to some embassies. So that's also very interesting to see, and it's super close to Saint-Quentin also. So it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, there's lots of embassies on Avenue Tervuren. It's about a 10-minute walk to the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And how about you, Christine?
Yeah, I have to agree also with Elvine. As always, Parc de Saint-Quentin is very lovely. I mean, my old high school is 2 minutes away from the campus, the Collège Saint-Michel, that is where I went to high school. And sometimes during the lunch break, we would take the subway like 2 stops away and then go to the Parc Saint-Quentin or walk around there for lunch around the area. So it's a really nice, quiet area, but there's still some things to do. And of course, closer to home, there's also parks and a forest closer to where I live, which is really nice. Like there's always something to do in Brussels as well, like always events, like food trucks or music. Like right now, my mom told me today about a park near the European Parliament that has concerts every day, I believe. And so, yeah, there's always something to do in Brussels that is nice and exciting.
And what would you recommend for Michael when he arrives to go get some beers? Where's the best terrace to go and sit? Where would you hang out at the weekend with friends?
I mean, I just know small places close to my home, which are not famous or in the city center or anything, because I live kind of like towards the east of Brussels. But I mean, the classic place to go is obviously Cimetière d'Ixelles, which is an area a little bit outside of the center. And I mean, the classic places are also like on Grand Place to just grab a few beers, Belgian beers. Careful, not German, sorry, Michael. And then just to sit down on the Grand Place on a warm summer night and just enjoy a few drinks with friends. Like that's really nice too.
That's great. And Michael, maybe give you the last word. What are you looking forward to? What are your expectations?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously I don't have favorite places in Brussels as I've never been there before, but Well, I mean, my expectations are getting higher and higher with every time I talk to people who are already there. I mean, yeah, I mean, firstly, I really look forward to work in the EU system, but secondly, also, it seems to be a great city, seems to be a great place. I also look forward to your personal bar tour, Paul, that you promised. So that's going to be amazing as well. And then after all, I think I just wish everybody who is in Brussels an amazing summer, because I heard that the summer in Brussels is premium. And I just look forward to join as soon as possible. But I can also say that Berlin is also amazing. And I can really advise people to go here as well.
Where would you advise in Berlin?
Well, I mean, it's quite a huge city, right? I mean, personally, I live in Kreuzberg, which is kind of a very, very cool neighborhood. And I think if you just come here and just vibe through the city, you find a nice place. I think there are hardly any places I wouldn't recommend, because they all have their special charm.
Great. And Elvine, we mustn't leave Ghent behind. What about Ghent?
Okay, I wasn't expecting that, Paul. Ghent is, yeah, of course, it's a really nice place to be. It's a little bit, yes, not similar, but somehow not too far from Maastricht. Really a student city, small, but really cozy and nice. Yeah, what I would say, I think there are so many places to, like, really, really nice places in Ghent where you have Veldstraat, very Dutch that I say, but that's a nice place to be. You have all markets and places to drink, to eat. It's a really nice place. The center in general is definitely very nice. So to everyone that really wants to visit it one day, feel free to call me, to let me know, and I will show you around. It's a nice place to be.
And it's just 30 minutes from Brussels, of course, and that's one of the wonderful
Also,
things. Brussels,
yeah.
Leuven, you've got Antwerp, you've got...
yeah, you have nice places indeed that not are too far from Brussels indeed.
Great. Well, thank you everybody so much. We'll have to meet up on a Thursday evening in Place Luxembourg for drinks, bring everybody together now that things are relaxing and opening up. And yeah, let's keep in touch. Thank you so much for your insights into your experiences over this last year doing the APA Master. And I wish you all a wonderful evening, and go enjoy the sunshine.